In the grand palace of Iwoland, Queen Omosalewa sat upon the ornate throne, deep in pensive thought. Her brow furrowed as she pondered the perilous journey her husband, King Akinwande, had embarked upon a quest to locate their son, the wayward Prince Azubuike, guided by the seer Abasi's visions. Omosalewa's mind couldn't help but dwell on the potential consequences that awaited once Akinwande's wrathful gaze fell upon their disgraced heir and his Oyolander companion, the Princess Adaku. She shuddered to imagine the brutal reprisals her ruthless husband was capable of unleashing upon them both. "Your Majesty," a tentative voice broke through her reverie. Omosalewa glanced up to see her chief advisor, Sam, hovering nearby with a concerned expression. "You seem troubled, my queen. Are the burdens of ruling in the king's stead already weighing too heavily?" Omosalewa waved off his worries with a slight shake of her head. "Peace, Sam. My thoughts merely drifted towards darker paths for a moment." Rising from the throne, she squared her shoulders with renewed determination. "But you are correct, Akinwande has entrusted me with the paramount task of overseeing Iwoland's affairs until his return. It is a sacred duty I intend to uphold flawlessly." Sam bowed respectfully. "Of course, Your Grace. The kingdom remains firmly under your steadfast guidance." As the advisor turned to attend to the day's governmental matters, Omosalewa felt a pang of unease once more. She knew her husband's infamous temper and unwavering sense of brutal justice too well. If Azubuike and this Adaku did not submit instantly to Akinwande's authority. Pushing such morbid thoughts aside firmly, the queen strode from the throne room with purpose. She would focus her energies on maintaining Iwoland's strength and stability during these tumultuous times. Her role was to be the unshakable pillar from which her king's ruthless endeavors could be properly launched. Still, Omosalewa could not fully ignore the gnawing sense of dread whispering that cataclysmic storms were rapidly coalescing on their ancestral horizons. She could only hope Akinwande's quest did not add further profane gales to the maelstrom threatening to engulf them all. Days had passed as King Olawale and his men steadfastly followed the map provided by Abasi, the seer from Iwoland. The journey seemed endless, but they pressed on, determined to reach their destination and rescue the Princess Adaku. As they rode, one of Olawale's warriors spurred his horse closer to the king's side. "Your Majesty," he called out, his voice carrying over the rhythmic hoofbeats. "May I speak freely?" Olawale turned his gaze towards the warrior, giving a slight nod. "Of course, my loyal subject. What weighs on your mind?" The warrior hesitated for a moment before posing his question. "What are your plans once we reach the village where the heir resides? When we find them, the princess and the Iwoland prince, what then shall you do?" Olawale's brow furrowed as he pondered the query. "In truth, I have not given much thought to the specifics," he admitted. "But now that you raise the point, my primary concern is retrieving my precious Adaku and ensuring her safe return." The warrior murmured, "And what of the Iwoland prince? What shall become of him?" With a dismissive wave of his hand, Olawale responded, "I care not for the fate of that boy. Let his ruthless father, Akinwande, deal with him as he sees fit." However, the warrior politely objected. "With all due respect, Your Majesty, I implore you to reconsider. If Akinwande were in our position, possessing the means to reach Adaku, he would undoubtedly strike down the princess and retrieve his son without hesitation." Olawale's expression hardened at the warrior's words, his hand instinctively gripping the pommel of his saddle. Yet, he could not bring himself to utter the order to execute the Iwoland prince. "I understand your concerns, but I cannot bring myself to act with such ruthless disregard for life," he said, his voice heavy with conviction. "To engage in such wanton killing would only breed further conflict and bloodshed between our kingdoms, something I wish to avoid at all costs." The warrior nodded solemnly, recognizing the wisdom in his king's words. "As you wish, Your Majesty. Your command shall be obeyed without question." With that, they continued their journey, the weight of the impending confrontation hanging over them. Both men knew that within a day or two they would reach their destination, and the fates of Adaku, the Iwoland prince, and perhaps even their kingdoms would be forever altered. As the miles rolled by, Olawale's thoughts turned inward. He could not deny the warrior's logic if their roles were reversed. Akinwande would undoubtedly show no mercy, slaughtering Adaku without hesitation to reclaim his son. Yet Olawale's heart could not bring itself to contemplate such callous brutality. He was a king, a leader of his people, but he was also a father willing to move heaven and earth to protect his beloved daughter. Surely there was a way to resolve this crisis without resorting to senseless violence, a path that would preserve both Adaku's safety and the fragile peace between their kingdoms. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the road, Olawale's resolve hardened. He would retrieve Adaku, no matter the cost, but he would do so with honor and compassion, upholding the values that had guided his reign thus far. For in the end, it was not merely the fate of his daughter or the Iwoland prince that hung in the balance, it was the very soul of his kingdom and his legacy as a just and benevolent ruler. Olawale would not allow the fires of vengeance and hatred to consume all that he had worked so tirelessly to build. With a renewed sense of determination, he urged his horse forward, his eyes fixed on the distant horizon, where the answers to so many questions awaited. Whatever challenges lay ahead, he would face them with the wisdom and strength befitting a king who understood that true power lay not in the sword, but in the ability to temper justice with mercy. In the peaceful village of Agada, days passed without any sign of the ominous troubles foreshadowed by Alakija's dreams. The young couple carried on with their daily routines, finding solace in the familiar rhythms of their humble life. Abidemi tended to the small garden beside their thatched hut, nurturing the vibrant vegetables and herbs that would grace their modest meals. With gentle hands, she tended to each plant, whispering soft words of encouragement, as if coaxing them to flourish under her care. Inside the hut, Abidemi's domain extended to the cozy kitchen area, where she skillfully prepared the day's fare. Her movements were graceful and practiced, honed by years of experience in transforming simple ingredients into delectable dishes bursting with love and happiness. As the sun began its descent, Alakija would return from the fields, his skin glistening with the honest sweat of a hard day's labor. He had found work tending to the crops of Mama Neka, a kindly widow who welcomed his diligent efforts with open arms. Upon entering their humble abode, Alakija would pause to savor the tantalizing aromas wafting from the kitchen, a smile tugging at his lips. Swiftly, he would bathe and change, eager to join his precious Abidemi for the evening meal. On one such night, Alakija emerged from the hut, freshly cleaned and clad in simple linen garments. He settled onto a low stool outside, allowing the cool evening breeze to caress his face as he awaited Abidemi's culinary masterpiece. His mind drifted back to the warnings Baba Oruko had imparted the need to stockpile provisions and gather funds, preparing for a potential upheaval that could shatter their tranquil existence. Alakija's brow furrowed as he contemplated the old fisherman's words, wondering if the visions that had plagued his slumber were more than mere phantasms. Lost in thought, Alakija almost didn't notice when Abidemi emerged from the hut, a tray laden with steaming dishes balanced expertly in her hands. Her radiant smile was enough to banish the shadows of doubt from his mind, if only for a moment. "My love," she murmured, bending down gracefully to set the tray before him. "Your meal awaits. Eat and be nourished, for you have labored tirelessly today." Alakija's eyes danced with adoration as he beheld the tantalizing spread before him. "My eternal light, you spoil me with your culinary talents," he replied, his voice rich with affection. Settling beside him, Abidemi watched with quiet pride as Alakija eagerly dug into the meal, savoring each bite as if it were a gift from the heavens themselves. For her, these moments of domestic bliss were worth more than all the riches in the world. As they shared the meal, their conversation drifted to lighter topics: the happenings in the village, the antics of the neighborhood children, and the upcoming harvest celebrations. It was a welcome reprieve from the weight of Alakija's lingering concerns, a reminder that even in the face of uncertainty, joy could still be found in the simplest of moments. Yet, as the evening wore on and the stars began to twinkle in the velvety night sky, Alakija couldn't help but feel a nagging sense of unease. Baba Oruko's warnings echoed in his mind, a constant reminder that their idyllic life could be fleeting, a mere calm before the storm. Reaching out, he took Abidemi's hand in his own, his calloused fingers intertwining with her delicate ones. "My love," he murmured, his voice heavy with emotion. No matter what trials may come our way, know that you are the anchor that keeps me grounded, the light that guides my path." Abideme's eyes shone with understanding and unwavering devotion. "And you, my eternal love, are the strength that sustains me, the courage that banishes all fears," she whispered in return. In that moment, they drew strength from their bond, an unbreakable tether that transcended the mortal realm. Whatever challenges awaited them, they would face them together, their love a beacon that would guide them through even the darkest of storms. For now, they would savor these precious moments of peace, cherishing the beauty of their simple existence while fortifying themselves for the uncertainties that lay ahead. United in heart and soul, they would weather any tempest, their love a testament to the resilience of the human spirit in the face of adversity. Days and days had passed as King Akinwande and his warriors relentlessly traveled, their determination unwavering. They had long since left the village of Amakuma behind, where Jagan and Queen Funmaleo's forces had previously trod. The path ahead seemed endless, but Akinwande's men pressed on, fueled by the burning desire to locate the wayward Prince Azubuike and retrieve him from the clutches of the Oyolander Princess Adaku. Suddenly, one of the warriors raised his hand, signaling for the company to halt. In an instant, the other men formed a protective circle around their king, sensing the imminent threat lurking ahead. Akinwande's eyes narrowed as he scanned the dense foliage lining the path, his hand resting on the hilt of his sword. In the distance, he could make out the faint movements of warriors concealed within the bushes, poised for an ambush. Before Akinwande could issue orders, a booming voice rang out, cutting through the tense silence. "Wait, wait, they are with us." Emerging from the undergrowth, the imposing figure of Jagan strode forth, his battle-hardened features immediately recognizable to Akinwande's men. A collective sigh of relief rippled through the ranks as Jagan approached, his gait radiating a sense of purpose. He came to a halt before Akinwande and bowed deeply, a show of respect befitting a king. Akinwande's brow furrowed as he regarded his trusted bloodmaster. "Jagan," he acknowledged, his voice carrying a hint of surprise. "I did not expect our paths to converge so fortuitously." Jagan rose from his bow, his expression grave. "My king, it appears we have been pursuing the same quarry through these treacherous wilds." With a wave of his hand, Akinwande gestured for Jagan to elaborate. The Blademaster proceeded to recount the villages his men had interrogated, including the recent encounter at Amakuma. As Jagan spoke, Akinwande's eyes gleamed with a mixture of pride and impatience. When the Blademaster had finished, the king held up a hand, silencing him. "Your efforts have been noted," Jagan Akinwande stated, his tone leaving no room for argument. "However, we need no longer rely solely on the scattered whispers of these backwater hovels." Reaching into the folds of his cloak, Akinwande produced the tightly rolled parchment, the map gifted by the seer Abasi. With a flourish, he unfurled it, revealing the intricate markings that would lead them to their ultimate destination. "Behold," Jagan Akinwande proclaimed, his voice ringing with a sense of triumph. "The path to our errant prince and that Oyolander whelp has been divinely revealed to us." Jagan's eyes widened as he took in the map's details, his gaze flickering between the parchment and his king's face. "But how, my lord?" he breathed, awe and disbelief intermingled in his tone. Akinwande allowed himself a rare, thin smile. "The seer Abasi has provided us with this sacred cartography, born from the visions granted to him by the ancestors themselves." Jagan nodded slowly, his expression one of newfound determination. Turning to his warriors, he barked a series of orders, and the men fell into formation alongside Akinwande's forces. "Then we shall accompany you on this final leg of the journey," my king Jagan declared, his voice resonating with conviction. "With our combined might, no obstacle shall impede our divine progress." Akinwande's smile broadened, a glint of eagerness flickering in his eyes. "Indeed, Jagan, together we shall rain down the full fury of Iwoland's wrath upon those who have dared to defy the sanctity of our lineage." With a sharp command, the united forces surged forward, their footsteps echoing like the drumbeats of war. Akinwande rode at the head of the column, his gaze fixed upon the map, his mind consumed by visions of the reckoning that awaited his wayward son and the Oyolander princess. As they marched, the warriors exchanged tales of their respective hunts, their voices laced with a mixture of frustration and determination. Jagun regaled them with accounts of the villages he had scoured, the interrogations he had conducted, and the fleeting leads that had ultimately led nowhere. Akinwande listened with a critical ear, his jaw clenched at the thought of his son's audacity in evading them for so long. But now, with Abasi's map guiding their steps, the hunt was nearing its inevitable conclusion. The king's gaze hardened as he contemplated the punishment that awaited Azubuike upon their reunion. The prince's defiance had not only brought shame upon the Iwoland throne, but had also threatened to ignite a conflict with the Oyolanders, a prospect that filled Akinwande with a mixture of rage and anticipation. As for the Princess Adaku, her fate was sealed the moment she had dared to entangle herself with the wayward heir. Akinwande's lips curled into a cruel sneer at the thought of the retribution he would exact upon her, a warning to any who dared to challenge the might of Iwoland. With each passing mile, the king's resolve grew stronger, fueled by the promise of vengeance and the restoration of his dynasty's honor. His warriors, emboldened by the presence of Jagun's formidable force, marched with renewed vigor, their blades thirsting for the taste of treasonous blood. As the sun began to dip below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of crimson and gold, Akinwande raised his fist, signaling a halt. His eyes scanned the map once more, committing every detail to memory. "Make camp here for the night," he commanded, his voice carrying the weight of authority. "Tomorrow we march upon our destination, and may the ancestors grant us the strength to deliver their righteous judgment upon those who have scorned their sacred lineage." The warriors set about their tasks, erecting tents and kindling fires, their movements fueled by a sense of purpose that transcended mere loyalty. For they knew that with each passing moment, they drew closer to the reckoning that would forever etch their names into the annals of Iwoland's history. And as the flickering flames danced in the growing darkness, Akinwande's eyes burned with an intensity that outshone even the brightest embers, a harbinger of the inferno that was to come. Queen Funmalayo sat under the shade of a towering mango tree, her brow furrowed with a mixture of confusion and frustration. Days had passed since they had embarked on their quest to recover her beloved daughter, Princess Adaku, yet their efforts had yielded no tangible results. As she gazed up at the dappled sunlight filtering through the canopy of leaves, Funmalayo couldn't help but feel a sense of hopelessness creeping into her heart. They had scoured countless villages, interrogated countless elders and chieftains, but each lead had proven to be a dead end, leaving them no closer to their goal. Lost in her thoughts, Funmalayo almost didn't notice the approach of Mokuwo, her trusted captain, until he was standing before her. "Your Majesty," Mokuwo began, his voice gentle yet carrying an undercurrent of strength. "I can see the weight of this journey bearing down upon you." Funmalayo met his gaze, her eyes reflecting a myriad of emotions: frustration, determination, and above all, a mother's unwavering love for her child. "Mokuwo," she said, her voice heavy with fatigue, "I cannot deny the toll this search has taken on my spirit. Each day that passes without news of Adaku's whereabouts feels like a dagger to my heart." Mokuwo nodded in understanding, his expression one of unwavering loyalty. "I cannot begin to fathom the anguish you must be enduring, my queen. However, I implore you not to surrender to despair." He reached out and placed a comforting hand on Funmalayo's shoulder, his gesture one of steadfast support. "We have weathered countless storms and trials together, and this too shall pass. Our path may be shrouded in uncertainty, but our resolve remains unshaken." A small smile tugged at the corners of Funmalayo's lips as she listened to Mokuwo's words. She placed her hand atop his, a silent gesture of gratitude for his unwavering loyalty. "You are right, my friend," she said, her voice regaining its strength. "I cannot allow myself to be consumed by hopelessness, for Adaku's life hangs in the balance." With a deep breath, Funmalayo rose to her feet, her regal bearing returning as she straightened her shoulders. "Gather the warriors," she commanded, her tone carrying the weight of a queen's authority. "We shall break camp and continue our journey with renewed vigor." Mokuwo bowed deeply, his face etched with pride and determination. "As you command, your Majesty. The warriors shall be ready to depart at your word." As Mokuwo turned and strode away, barking orders to the men, Funmalayo allowed herself a moment of reflection. The path ahead was uncertain, fraught with dangers and obstacles unknown. Yet she could not afford to falter, for the love she bore for her daughter burned brighter than any adversity they might face. With a resolute nod, Funmaleo followed in Mokowo's footsteps, her eyes scanning the horizon with a renewed sense of purpose. They would press on, steadfast in their quest, until the very last breath left their bodies. For in the end, the bond between a mother and her child was a force more powerful than any kingdom or army, and Funmaleo would stop at nothing to ensure that sacred bond remained unbroken, no matter the cost. In the tranquil village of Agada, Baba Oruko stood outside his humble thatched hut, tending to a bountiful catch of large fish he had hauled in from the nearby river. A contented smile played upon his weathered features as he basked in the satisfaction of a hard day's work. The peaceful scene was suddenly disrupted by the arrival of a young man, no older than 24, striding into Baba Oruko's compound with a lit cigarette dangling from his lips and an unlit one perched behind his ear. His demeanor exuded a certain ruggedness, a streetwise swagger that seemed at odds with the village's pastoral charm. Baba Oruko, the young man, called out, his voice carrying a rough edge as he approached the elderly fisherman. Baba Oruko turned, his eyes immediately recognizing the visitor as one of the youths he had entrusted with a vital task to keep a watchful eye on any strangers entering Agada and inquiring about certain names, such as Adaku and Azubuike. If such a situation arose, they were to report it to him without delay. The young man closed the distance between them, greeting Baba Oruko with an exaggerated gesture, raising both hands in the air and offering a boisterous hype of respect. Despite his gruff exterior, a warm smile spread across the old fisherman's face as he returned the greeting. "Malik, my boy," Baba Oruko said, his voice carrying a grandfatherly affection. "To what do I owe this visit? Do you have any news for me concerning our discussion?" Malik shook his head, his expression turning serious. "Nah, Baba, nothing like that," he replied, his casual drawl a stark contrast to Baba Oruko's measured tones. "Just came to let you know that so far, ain't nobody been asking about them names you told us to watch for." Baba Oruko nodded, his relief evident. Good, he murmured, his gaze drifting back to the fish laid out before him. "Make sure to keep your ears to the ground for anything concerning those names." Malik flashed a crooked grin, his confidence evident. "Don't you worry about a thing, Baba," he assured the old fisherman. "Me and the boys got our eyes and ears wide open. Ain't nothing gonna slip past us." Satisfied with the youth's assurances, Baba Oruko reached into the pocket of his tattered trousers and produced a small handful of coins. Without a word, he pressed the modest sum into the young man's palm, a gesture of gratitude for his vigilance. The youth's eyes widened momentarily, taken aback by the unexpected reward. A broad grin spread across his face as he clutched the coins tightly, showering Baba Oruko with a fresh round of exaggerated praise and hype. "Bless you, Baba. You a real one, you know dat," he exclaimed, his words tumbling out in a rush of appreciation. "Ain't no way we letting you down, ya heard." With a final nod of respect, the young man turned and sauntered out of the compound, his swagger seemingly amplified by the weight of the coins in his palm and the promise of fulfilling his role in Baba Oruko's clandestine mission. Baba Oruko watched the youth depart, a pensive expression settling over his weathered features. Though the village remained peaceful for now, he couldn't shake the nagging sense of unease that had taken root within him since his conversation with Alakija. Turning his attention back to the fish, the old fisherman began the meticulous task of cleaning and preparing his catch, his calloused hands moving with practiced efficiency. As he worked, his mind drifted, contemplating the potential consequences of the events he had set in motion. If the rumors and whispers proved true, and the forces of Iwoland or Oyolander did indeed come seeking Alakija and Epitome, Baba Oruko knew that the peace and tranquility of Agada would be shattered beyond repair. The very thought sent a shudder down his spine, for he had witnessed firsthand the devastation wrought by such conflicts in his youth. Yet, even as the weight of his decisions bore down upon him, Baba Oruko found solace in the knowledge that he was doing what he believed to be right. Alakija and Epitome, whatever their true identities might be, had proven themselves to be kind and upstanding members of the community. To simply stand by and allow them to be swept up in the machinations of warring kingdoms would be a betrayal of everything Baba Oruko held dear. With a sigh, he set aside the last of the cleaned fish and rose to his feet, his joints creaking with age, as he made his way back into his humble abode. For he knew, deep in his heart, that the calm before the storm was rapidly drawing to a close, and soon they would all be swept up in the maelstrom of forces beyond their control. All he could hope for was the strength and wisdom to weather the coming tempest and to protect those he held dear from the worst of its fury. The afternoon sun cast a warm glow over the sprawling farmlands of Mama Nika, where Alakija toiled diligently, his focus entirely consumed by the tasks at hand. His calloused hands worked the soil with practiced precision, tending to the crops that sustained the village's livelihood. As he knelt amidst the verdant rows, a sudden movement caught his eye, a shadowy figure emerging from the periphery of his vision. Alakija's heart seized with fear, his body tensing instinctively as he whipped around, bracing himself for potential danger. Yet the sight that greeted him was one of familiarity and joy, for there stood his beloved Epitome, a gentle smile playing upon her lips. Relief washed over Alakija, quickly replaced by a surge of surprise and confusion. "Epitome," he exclaimed, his voice tinged with bewilderment. "What are you doing here, my love?" Epitome's smile broadened as she approached, her steps light and graceful. "The house grew too quiet without your presence," she explained, her melodic voice carrying a hint of playfulness. "I decided to pay a visit to my hard-working lover and offer my assistance, as we once toiled side by side in these very fields." It was then that Alakija noticed the woven basket cradled in Epitome's arms, its contents exuding the tantalizing aroma of freshly prepared food. His heart swelled with love and gratitude, overwhelmed by his wife's thoughtfulness. "You are truly a blessing from the heavens," Alakija murmured, his eyes shining with emotion. "God has graced me with the most caring and devoted partner a man could ever hope for. Our children will be fortunate indeed to have such a remarkable woman as their mother." Epitome's cheeks flushed ever so slightly at her husband's heartfelt words, and she dipped her head in a gesture of humility. "It is I who should be thankful," she replied softly. "For you have shown me unwavering love and support, even in the face of adversity. Your strength and resilience inspire me daily." With a contented sigh, Alakija rose to his feet and dusted off his hands, his work momentarily forgotten. Together, the couple settled beneath the shade of a nearby tree, where Epitome unpacked the basket, revealing a modest yet inviting meal that filled the air with mouth-watering aromas. As they ate, their conversation flowed freely, punctuated by laughter and playful banter. They spoke of their hopes and dreams for the future, envisioning the joys of raising a family together in the tranquil embrace of Agata. Alakija jokingly pondered which of their children would take after him more, while Epitome countered with her own playful predictions, her eyes sparkling with mirth. In those precious moments, the weight of their uncertainties and fears seemed to melt away, replaced by a sense of unbridled happiness and contentment. Epitome, overcome with joy, would occasionally break into a fit of giggles, prompting her to clamber onto Alakija's back, her laughter ringing out like music across the fields. Unbeknownst to the blissful couple, however, the forces that had set their lives on a collision course were drawing ever closer. Yet, in those fleeting moments beneath the shade of the tree, blissfully unaware of the gathering tempest, Alakija and Epitome revealed in the simple joys of love and companionship. Their laughter echoed across the fields, a poignant reminder of the fragility of happiness in a world where the tides of fate could turn on a whim. Later on, after finishing the meal, Alakija went back to round up his work for the day. As the sun began its descent, painting the sky in hues of gold and crimson, the couple prepared and began leaving, hand in hand, and began the journey back to their humble abode. Their smiles were radiant, their hearts overflowing with contentment and the promise of a future filled with love and laughter. Little did they know that the approaching storm would soon sweep them up in its relentless currents, testing the very depths of their devotion and resilience. But for now, in the twilight hours of that fateful day, they walked together, basking in the warmth of their bond, oblivious to the gathering shadows that threatened to engulf them both.
Write the word continue in the comments section if you want the next part. and please subscribe to our channel.
Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed watching. Kindly click the subscribe button, like, comment, and share this video. Watch out for more intriguing and eye-catching videos from your favorite YouTube channel.